Chapter 1. Stardust in the Rust Belt Trading Area. When Kaelen's fingertips rubbed against the edge of the starnet fragment, the fluorescent pattern shone like startled starworms. A pale blue light shone on the old scar on his wrist, which was burned by an out-of-control dark matter when she was picking up debris in the slum 3 years ago. The scar was shaped like half a piece of stardust and overlapped with the mixed blood mark on her collarbone, becoming the most common identity proof in the critical star domain. It was neither the inanimate light and shadow of the Eternal Order, nor the physical body of the stellar descendants with star maps engraved on their collarbones. It's the fragmented person sandwiched in the middle.
Kaelen, can the goods from booth number 3 still be delivered?
A hoarse shout came from outside, the stall made of rusty iron frames. Kaelen stuffed the fragments into the canvas bag and looked up to see that the black market merchant, Old Scar, always wrapped the starnet wire around his waist as a belt. The metal joints were worn shiny, and it was obvious that they had been dismantled from the abandoned patrol ship of Eternal Order.
What's the rush?
Kaelen crouched down and pretended to sort out the shoddy Stardust ore on the stall, but her fingertips gently tapped the fragment bag 3 times. This is the meaning of monitoring in Stardust language.
The lumen shard you want can only be dismantled after the dark matter fluctuation stabilizes. Aren't you afraid it will blow up your hand?
The old Scar's face twitched.
The dark matter of critical star domain has been having problems recently. Yesterday, a businessman had half of his arm swallowed by blue fire while disassembling the fragments, and even his bones turned into fluorescent gray.
He moved closer to Kaelen's booth, lowering his voice.
The people from Orville were here again, right at the entrance of the trading area, checking for abnormal dark matter fluctuations. Your laboratory, keep quiet recently.
Kaelen's fingertips paused for a moment. Orville, the consul of Eternal Order, the man seen only in the Starnet projection, always wears a silver-gray virtual uniform, and his tone fluctuates as if adjusted by algorithm when speaking. Everyone in Critical Star Domain was afraid of him, afraid that the data scavengers he sent, those light and shadow soldiers, could directly shatter people's consciousness into garbled characters, whether they were from Eternal Order or stellar descendants.
Got it.
She fished out a palm-sized fragment from her canvas bag. The blue light was dimmer than the previous one.
Use this to make up for it for now and give you a better one when it stabilizes.
Old Scar took it and bit the edge of the fragment with his teeth. This was a crude method used in the black market to inspect goods. Genuine Starnet fragments would make a whistling sound. After confirming it was genuine, he dropped a small bag of Stardust ore, turned around, and crawled into the narrow alley between the stalls. The wire around his waist swayed back and forth like an unruly snake. Kaelen poured Stardust ore into the palm of her hand. The powder was warm yellow and adhered to her skin like a handful of fragmented sunlight. This is the hard currency of stellar descendants. It can be exchanged for compressed cakes in the slums and also power the terminals in the laboratory. She counted, and there were 12 in total. They were enough to last until next week, provided that he didn't run into anyone he needed to save again. But as soon as these words were settled in her heart, she heard rapid footsteps coming from the alley entrance. Someone lowered their voice and shouted,
Help! Help him!
Kaelen subconsciously hid the fragment bag behind her back and looked up to see a young man in the Stellar Descendants military uniform with holes, holding a unconscious soldier in his arms. The young man had a star map mark on his collarbone. It was the Forest and Field tribe of the Wind Tribe, the military leader renowned for his anti-starnet technology. There was a penetrating wound on the soldier's chest. The edge of the wound was blackish purple, caused by the Eternal Order data ray. This kind of injury is very common in the critical star domain. Either use the energy of starnet fragments to suppress the injury, or wait for the wound to spread to the heart. Even the herbs of stellar descendants are of no use.
Please.
The young man's voice was trembling. The soldier in his arms had begun to twitch.
I'm Amu, a subordinate of the Forest and Field leader. We just escaped from the stronghold of the Eternal Order. He couldn't hold on any longer.
Kaelen's gaze fell upon the soldier's face. That face was very young, probably only 20 years old, with Stardust ore powder still sticking to the corners of its mouth, as if it was still munching on a compressed pancake before escaping. He recalled that his father was also a stellar descendant soldier. Back then, in order to protect his mother, the data clerk of the Eternal Order was stripped of consciousness by the data cleaner, and not even a body was left.
I have no fragments that can heal my injuries.
Kaelen turned her face away, but his fingertips were tightly grasping the lumen shard that the old scar had just shown her. The energy of this fragment is sufficient to suppress the injury, but if it is given to them, there will be no power supply for the laboratory next week. She still has to rely on those terminals to interpret the recorders left by his parents and find a way for the coexistence of the two civilizations.
I have Stardust ore.
Amu hurriedly fished out a cloth bag from his pocket and poured out 5 Stardust ores, which were even more than what Kaelen had earned just now.
If it wasn't enough, I could go hunting Stardust beasts, as long as you saved him.
The soldier's convulsions became more and more severe, and his lips began to turn purple. Kaelen closed his eyes and took Lumen Shard out of her bag. The blue light danced in her palm, like tiny stars. She walked over, squatted beside the soldier, and pressed the fragments above the wound. The light from the fragments instantly melted into the wound, and the blackish-purple edge faded at a visible speed to the naked eye. The soldier's convulsions gradually ceased.
It can last for 3 days.
Kaelen withdrew her hand. The warmth of the fragments still lingered on her fingertips. She had to find more complete fragments in 3 days. Otherwise, the injury would rebound. Amu hurriedly kowtowed and handed all the Stardust ore to Kaelen.
Thank you. Thank you. I will remember your kindness, and so will the forest chief.
He held the soldier in his arms, carefully avoiding the debris between the stalls, and walked towards the slum. The holes in his military uniform swayed in the wind like a small flag. Kaelen watched their backs, lowered her head, and counted the Stardust cores in her hand. There were 17, 5 more than before, but her heart felt empty, as if what had just been pressed on the wound was not fragments but her own research and development time.
Be a good person again?
A familiar voice came from behind. Kaelen turned back and saw old Quay leaning against the rusty iron stand of the stall, holding a Stardust walkie-talkie in his hand. The Stardust smoke in the pipe rose gently and dispersed into fine mist in the blue light. Old Quay's hair is all white, but he always wears a washed and whitened Stellar Descendants military uniform, which he said he wore when he was a Stardust ore hunter in his youth.
He is dying.
Kaelen stuffed the Stardust ore into her bag.
How many people have died?
Old Quay took a puff of his cigarette. The Stardust in the pipe made a sizzle.
The Orville people were investigating dark matter fluctuations. You saved him with fragments, which was equivalent to attaching the label of abnormal signal to yourself.
He walked up to Kaelen and lowered his voice.
Your parents were just too foolish back then. They wanted to tell the twin civilizations about the Star Aether civilization. What was the result? One was stripped of consciousness by the Eternal Order, and the other was regarded as a traitor by the Stellar Descendants, not even leaving a complete corpse.
Kaelen's fingertips pinched into her palm. She knew that old Quay was telling the truth, but she couldn't forget the footage in his parents' recorder. Her mother recorded in Starnet that she wanted to touch Stardust, and her father wrote in the physical body diary that he wanted to see the light of Starnet. They clearly wanted to coexist, but died in the hatred between the two races.
I'm different from them.
Kaelen picked up the canvas bag and put the remaining fragments and Stardust ore in.
I'll find a way.
Old Kui watched her back, sighed softly, and flicked the ash from the pipe to the ground. Stardust ash fell on the rusty iron frame and mixed with the fluorescence of those Starnet fragments, becoming the most common color in the critical star domain, half blue and half yellow, like the tears of two civilizations. Kaelen didn't look back. She knew that old Kui was doing it for his own good, but she had to go on. In the terminal of the laboratory, the parents' recorders are still waiting to be interpreted. In the slum, there are still people like Amu and that soldier waiting to be rescued. She clutched the canvas bag tightly. The blue light from the fragments seeped through the fabric, casting tiny spots of light on the ground, like a path leading to the future. She just didn't see that in the shadow at the entrance of the trading area, a light and shadow soldier was holding a data scanner. A line of words was dancing on the screen, detecting abnormal dark matter fluctuations, coordinates, near booth number 3 in the Rust Belt trading area. The fingertip of the light and shadow soldier pressed on the scanner. and an invisible signal was sent out along the dark matter network, with only one destination: Starnet core of Eternal Order, where Orville's consciousness is located.